So this is going to be my first video in quite a while now. I used to have a channel where I talked a lot like this, but I have since lost the email and password that I used to sign on to that channel. So I'm just going to throw this on my old guitar channel, and I apologize in advance for the background noise. I am currently holding my pop filter with my left hand and it is fastened on by a rubber band, so, you know, I don't really have quality equipment here. So I'm going to be addressing the talk between Anthony Fantano and Sargon of Akkad, and I'm mostly going to be focusing on the differences between the authoritarian left in the 80s and the authoritarian right in the 80s and the current wave of authoritarian left-wing political thought, and, you know, how it operates. I definitely agree with both of them that, you know, this kind of new authoritarian left is the establishment in some ways. And I think a counter-argument to that would be that the Republicans currently control both the House and the Senate, and, you know, Obama himself is far from an SJW. You know, he's just not. So, you know, social justice warriors would say, no, we actually have no power. But I think that the authoritarian left does not really operate on a fully governmental level. The authoritarian right in the 80s, you know, kind of went straight from the churches to the ballot boxes to try to get, you know, certain legislations passed, and of course failed. Whereas I think the authoritarian left operate mostly in universities and media outlets, and what they are trying to do, whether consciously or not, is, well, they are trying to do it consciously. They're trying to make being offended and authoritarianism cool, and I think that is why in some ways they are a much greater threat to free expression, especially in the arts and entertainment, than the authoritarian right are, because Jack Thompson was never considered a cultural icon. He was never considered cool. People like Anita Sarkeesian and Lacey Green are, by a lot of people. So I think that's what makes fighting back, you know, a little more difficult in some ways. And I don't think this is necessarily a conscious move by the extreme left. I don't think they study the extreme right and, you know, look at their failings. I think it's actually because, you know, even though President Obama was elected to office, I think a lot of these extreme leftists felt like they don't really have a chance in Washington. And I know this because I myself felt, you know, somewhat disillusioned with President Obama in how he continued the war on terror and continued still to this day, a lot of the civil liberties violations that President Bush did. And it's why I was at one point a subscriber to the Young Turks. I really liked the fact that they were not afraid to criticize President Obama, unlike many other left-wing outlets. And I thought that at the time, like, that these are a group of people who are really thinking for themselves. Unfortunately, that has since changed. They are pretty much just, you know, parroting what a lot of other left-wing outlets are parroting. And I think what they are parroting is this attempt to make authoritarianism and professional offense-taking cool. We can see this in, of course, the success, at least in the past, of outlets like Gawker and Jezebel. And, you know, now we have MTV, who are currently hosting Lacey Green and Chescale. And if you watch their videos, they're basically trying to convince people that things that they might not have seen as offensive are in fact offensive, and that they should find them offensive. So I think that is the main strategy of the extreme left right now, or at least the authoritarian left, the authoritarian branch of the extreme left, who currently hold a lot of power in media outlets and universities. I do think that they will fail, because at the end of the day, authoritarianism is just not cool, and it's not funny, you know. I'm just going to show you a little snippet of feminist comedy. This is what these social justice warriors want offensive jokes to be replaced with.
Why do I have so many shoes? Oh, God. Hey, look, if shoes didn't exist, you wouldn't have this stereotype of women being obsessed with shoes, right? And sexism wouldn't exist. Shoes create sexism. I'm saying if we get rid of shoes, there'll be no sexism. Like, the poster for The Devil Wears Prada would probably be different. Yeah, radically different. Just imagine the future without shoes. Also, think about how clean and tidy all the streets would have to be.
So yeah, I mean, you can see right here, like this has no staying power. It is, if you look at this lady's channel, I don't even know her name. I don't really care. Every video that she has where ratings and comments are not disabled, there is of course an extreme dislike to like ratio. So she, of course, disables ratings and comments. And this is a common pattern you see in a lot of social justice warrior outlets, especially when they attempt comedy and music. I think comedy and music will always have a very libertarian slant to it because libertarian values and libertarian societies are the only societies in which they can fully exist, which they are free to express themselves. My final point is that we should keep an eye on this term alternative right because I think that is something that we are going to be seeing a lot more in the future. People who are finally standing up to a lot of this authoritarian leftism have some very right-leaning views. I mean, just look at Milo Yiannopoulos, who I have very mixed feelings on. I really like the work he's done for Gamergate, but some of his ideological beliefs are just downright crazy, if you ask me. And I'm willing to put those aside as far as he's willing to put them aside, to discuss things like Gamergate. But I do think in the future there might be people who will be using this very bizarre status of alternative right to maybe push some more traditionalist values and the only reason that is possible is because we have these left-wingers who are currently trying to censor comedy and who are insisting that these things are not funny and that you need to stop doing this and you can't say that. And so in a strange, bizarre turn of events, we now have this possibility for the alternative right. And it always used to baffle me that Frank Zappa would call himself a conservative despite being extremely vocal against the religious right, religion in general, war. He was very anti-war. He was anti-police brutality. These are things that I would at one point ascribe to being a leftist, but after experiencing some of the actions and values of these social justice warriors and realizing that he probably experienced some of the same things in the 60s, I now kind of understand why he might have called himself a conservative, even though I don't. I still consider myself a leftist in very, very many ways. So interesting times ahead of us is all I can really say. I mean, shit.